Anyway,
Anyway.
let's jump in to the first topic. So, we actually had this conversation way back in September, October 2018.
Oh yeah.
Usually we talk about things like this at lunch, and of course producer Robin was the first to bring this to our attention. So, these games, Forza Horizon 4, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Black Ops 4, Fallout 76, Battlefield 5, Hitman 2, were all released. All of these AAA games were released in October, November.
Yeah.
But none of these games were released within 2 weeks prior or 2 weeks after Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yep.
Which was the huge hit. And that being said, coming up in 3 weeks, there will be 4 AAA games released within the same week.
Dang.
So Far Cry, all 4 games are all open world shooters.
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
Open world third person shooters, might I add.
Right,
No,
right.
Metro might be.
Far Cry is
Metro's
also first person. Anyway, it's shooty in
It's
open world.
shooty open world. So it's Far Cry New Dawn, Crackdown 3, Metro Exodus, and Anthem. The
Right.
Anthem releases on the 22nd of Feb, and the other 3 all get released on the 15th of February.
Yeah.
So, what do you guys make of this? What do you guys make of... Let's first talk about the 4 games in 1 week
Yeah.
situation. Robin?
That's pretty rough. That's gonna be a hectic week, not just for people who like to play games, but also press wise or content creator wise. It's just gonna be really hectic. And there's only so much people can play at one time. There's only so much people can talk about. And these are games that are all roughly in the same genre, but it's and for a lot of players they might be very distinct, but it pretty much dominates the news, what people are talking about. You can only talk about so many things. Your friends can only play so much at one time. So I think that's going to be really rough. Especially for some of the games that might be a bit more limited, like Crackdown. It's a console exclusive. That just means there's inherently going to be less people talking about it. As awesome as it might be, that's rough. And I think the game was already moved a couple of times, and it makes a lot of sense to move it out of the sort of holiday season that was already super packed, and move it into a slot where it would get a little bit more attention or be able to stand a bit more on itself. But now that slot is crowded as well. I mean, February and March kind of used to be the more quiet times.
Yeah.
And now it isn't.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, for me personally, obviously, these 4 games like Metro and Far Cry and Crackdown and Anthem, some of course stand out more than others. But I know that as they're all action games, and for instance, I love Crackdown a lot on 360, and I would be more interested in Crackdown 3 if it wasn't launching next to a bunch of other stuff. Right now, I'm more into co-op stuff, so Anthem on this list is most exciting to me. But I'm pretty sure if you're it's already kind of limited in scope in general. It's all guys shooting stuff.
Terry Crews.
And yeah,
and Terry Crews. But
I mean, that is actually, I think, one of the reasons why out of this list, that game might just be the one to grab the attention most easily. It's super explosive. It looks fun. The others are a little harder to just say, hey, this is a lot of fun. So in that sense, it might just really stand out.
Well, I mean, sorry. I know I'm meant to be the host.
Sure.
And I'm not meant to have an opinion.
But you do have one, so let's go.
And I do have one. Out of all of these games, we've seen the least from Crackdown, from Microsoft Studios. They've... I think the last thing they did was a gameplay walkthrough, which was 5 minutes long in December, and before that it was, I think, just things shown at E3.
Well, sure, but I think.
Do you think it'll actually drop in 2 weeks' time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it will. I think one of the interesting things. This kind of veers towards a different discussion, but one of the interesting things for Crackdown is that it's Microsoft runs Game Pass, and Crackdown is part of that right at launch. So it doesn't necessarily have to go gangbusters on first day. This is a game there where if it looks like a lot of fun, people are going to try it, and when they have the time for it. They don't have to pick it up and play it right away. If they subscribe to Game Pass, they can play it when they want. So it is, in a sense, kind of competing for a different experience. And I think that is actually another issue these games all face, that they're releasing a couple months after a lot of big multiplayer games, other multiplayer shooter games, where people are still playing that, and big publishers are nowadays are very, very focused on keeping their community engaged.
Right. That's hard.
In a sense.
We've tried.
Yeah, I mean, keeping your players engaged is hard, but it's becoming more and more important at this sort of super AAA level.
Yeah.
Where they're not just competing for attention right now, they're also competing for attention from people who are sort of actively being held by other games.
Yeah, you just see the news about Netflix claiming that Fortnite is now their biggest competitor for some time.
I mean, people are playing Fortnite. They're still playing Call of Duty. They're still playing Red Dead Redemption, which now has its online component, and that is dominating the news in itself. These are just new games trying to make a way in there.
You touched on an interesting subject in a way with Crackdown being part of Game Pass, because in general, in one way, it means that it's kind of it kind of devalues the game, because for people who subscribed, it's free for them. But on the other hand, it also means that anyone who is on Game Pass will get a AAA game for free at that time, and so the other three games kind of will, at least on Xbox, suffer for it. But then again,
that's fair.
Xbox is, relatively speaking, of course, the smallest one. So I think in general gamer talk time, it will have a lesser impact than the other three. And Anthem is also available on EA subscription stuff, right?
On Origin Access, I believe.
Yeah.
But it's I think it costs a bit more than Game Pass to do Origin Access.
Will it be available?
And that's different to. No, there's EA Access and Origin Access, which is the PC and Xbox versions of
and they're separate?
EA Game Pass.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
they're separate. Game Pass is available both on PC and Xbox just through one subscription. And then there's Premium Origin Access, which is only available on PC, I believe.
Right.
And that's where you get all the big EA releases. But I'm not sure I don't know how that's priced.
Right.
And then tying back into what I also found remarkable is that Sea of Thieves kind of exploded recently again.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that is in any way related to like it being part of Game Pass, because it makes it really easy for people to jump out when there's new games and jump back in. Yeah,
I think so. It's that game in a way has appeal that it has a very low barrier to entry.
True.
If you already subscribe to Game Pass, it's really easy to sort of jump into that game. And now, like, I think it's almost been a year since that game shipped. So much has been changed and so much has been tweaked that the initial criticism that it received has no longer really applies. So people are sort of rediscovering that game. If you tried it out at launch and you log back in now, you'll have just a different experience. And content creators have sort of found that, been having a good time with it. And with low barriers to entry, that just pours in a lot of gamers.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Robin and I are both Xbox owners,
Mhm.
but you've stayed subscribed to Game Pass since the beginning, I believe.
No, I actually haven't. I share my Xbox with someone who does.
Ah, right. So you
You
get.
cheated.
It's like
I leech.
you're the guy with the without the Netflix account, but uses it anyway.
That's the one.
Excellent.
But I actually, I use my every year. If you actually stop your Xbox Live Gold subscription and will like buy a day before you extend it, you get another 14 days free trial for Game
Oh.
Pass, which I didn't know. I
Oh.
just found out because I stopped my Xbox Live Gold subscription for like half a year because I wasn't playing any games online. So then when I continued it, I got another 14 days.
Nice.
Excellent.
And in the beginning, I actually used my 14-day free trial to exclusively just play Sea of Thieves when a game came out. And I remember that those 2 weeks, I was staying up to like 7 a.m. playing Sea of Thieves
Nice.
because it
Oh,
was
that's
just so
why.
much fun. No, I wasn't working at Ronnie back then. I had the time.
Right,
It's
right,
actually that's something that Microsoft has mentioned, where people like to play games with their friends, and if someone plays a game through Game Pass and it's like, hey, come on, play this game with me, not all their friends might have Game Pass.
Right.
So that in itself has apparently driven a lot of sales where people will buy the game rather than get Game Pass. It's
It's time.
Neil.
I'm raffling.
Niel's
Keep
raffling.
talking.
And I think that's actually an interesting angle. That's again really far off the original question.
Yeah. Yeah, so back to like the release window for Swords and Soldiers is the last game we really had to look at it, right? And so we came out.
November 6th.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of the week after Red Dead Redemption hit. And everyone was talking about Red Dead Redemption. Everyone was posting clips of their horse freaking out and having a lot of fun with it. And we shipped our game in that week where there was kind of a lull in AAA titles,
Right.
even though it's the first week of November, which is traditionally like when
And one
when
of the
the-
craziest ones.
the big ones hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big one did hit, and everyone wanted to get out
How?
of the way of the big one.
Well, yeah,
Well,
sure.
at least
but
that's
it's-
what it seemed like.
Mm-hmm.
But it was I think it was a little different for us as a smaller studio.
Yeah.
In a way, we have to rely much more on sort of outlets or parties who will cover us because they know about the game because they've heard about it, and in some cases it actually helps if it's a bit of a quiet week in that sense. It's easier
Of
to
course.
sort of sneak in
Yeah.
a short notice like saying, hey, this game is shipped or is now available, compared to a week where those 10 AAA games are hitting. But it's always a bit of a guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure in hindsight. So kind of the thinking was at least on Red Dead is not affecting Steam, right? And most of the other
Mhm.
games are out of the way, I think.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that didn't ship on PC.
Yeah.
The two closest games, the two closest AAA games that shipped closest to Swords and Soldiers 2 were Red Dead before and then Battlefield 5 afterwards.
Right.
Right.
And neither Red Dead nor Battlefield were shipping on Steam.
Yeah.
So
But it might have hurt our PS4 presence.
yeah,
It's
of
kinda hard to
course.
say.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so linking this to
Raffle.
release, also raffle first, and then
And then not Neil's opinion because.
Haha.
no, I was segueing.
Okay, excellent.
So the raffle winners for the first round, were Pirate Leon. That's the skin you get.
Nice.
The raffle winners are Dr. Time _ Giorno Dio, Auto Refresher 2,
Hey.
Exposed
Hey.
_ Dancer, and Ryan Vitoro. And the RoboScoop winner is Dr. Time, and the winner of Swords and Soldiers 2 Armageddon is Giono Dio.
Congratulations.
So congrats on winning, guys.
Yeah. After the stream, Neil will handle all the key giving.
Yes, tomorrow
right
I
here.
will send
Yes.
out the keys.
Mm.
So, what was I saying?
There
Oh
was
yeah,
that-
so linking to release windows.
Right.
In hindsight, and of course it's easy to say in hindsight,
Yeah.
would we have should we have waited till Swords and Soldiers 2 was also done on Switch and released it at the same time on Switch?
When
on
is
1st
that
of
shipping?
March.
Oh. Nice.
But if you
1st
can't
of
wait to
March?
play Swords and Soldiers
That's so
2
quick.
Armageddon on the Switch and you want to warm up first, you can play the original Swords and Soldiers,
Oh yeah.
which is now on Switch on EU, US, and AU stores.
Yes.
Yes.
And the launch
Nice.
discount still applies, I believe, because it launched last week.
Yes.
And I think it's $7.50.
It's $5 right now.
Oh, with
Yes.
discount,
The
Yeah.
discount's pretty good.
it's €5/$.
Yep.
I don't know how it converts to AU. Sorry, AU people.
Sorry.
I'm all asleep.
Also, good night.
Yeah.
But yes, your question: should we have released it on March 1st alongside the Switch version? I'm not sure, because on both accounts it's kind of a gamble in a way. I would actually say no, because having shipped it, it's improved. It's been out on the Steam for a while. The Switch version is gonna have a more solid launch, or a solid launch version because of it. And personally, I don't really believe in holding on to a game when it's already done. Shipping it in March wouldn't have guaranteed us more exposure. Who knows what'll happen on the first week of March,
Yeah.
right? What do you think?
Well, I think. I think it might have been better. It's always a gamble, as you say. It might have been better to catch like the multi-platform spotlights if you release more platforms at the same time, and it makes it a bit easier to grab some headlines, I think. And of course, last fall was exceptionally busy. It's the first time we ever launched anything in that window, and yeah, the numbers could have been better, I guess. But on the other hand, you don't know what would have happened if we launched in March, so it's really hard to say. We're gonna see what the Switch version does. Obviously, there's not that big. There's no real heavy hitters coming on Switch in that period, I believe.
Yeah, I think the Switch market is really interesting for Sword Soldiers. It seems like such a very, very distinct ecosystem.
Yeah, it's more separate than the other
that
consoles.
It's
It also seems like a game that's really, really built for the Switch.
Well,
yeah, it fits really well. We originally designed it for Wii U, which
Yep.
had a lot of mechanics that are sort of similar to the Switch. For instance, touch interface was already available on the Wii U.
Right. Yeah, and the
and a
whole
lot of-
vibe fits
yeah.
the ecosystem really well, I feel like.
So yeah, but it seems like such a distinct ecosystem that it's just a completely new opportunity in a way.
Jasper, apparently you're a bit quiet, so shout.
Oh.
Well, I also think that Steam is very obviously a very different market now than it was the last time we launched the game, which I guess was Awesome Lots
Yeah.
years ago. So it makes sense that it changed over the years so much. But yeah, it's I don't know if it's all for the better. The usually originally the launch was harder, and the tail was fell quicker, and nowadays it's slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
There's more discovery options, but there's also way more.
Yeah. There's a lot more people competing for more players every day, but it's sort of the games are outpacing the number of players or the player hours, I guess.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I'm pretty happy with how the game did.
Yeah.
Because it's a very very different market than when we shipped Astronauts. When we shipped Astronauts, we were kind of frustrated that it shipped on a day where another game also shipped. And say we're now six and a half years on, and it's I think we're up to 25 games a day, and it's so vastly different. Players now discover games in such a very different way than they did back in 2012. That we also don't really know what to expect anymore.
Yeah.
A good game can sell anything basically. It can go crazy and sell almost 1 million in a week, or it can do all right and sell much less, but still outperform 90% of whatever ships on Steam.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've been keeping an eye on like almost hourly releases on Steam. It's insane. But that kind of ties us back into the Epic Game Store, because I feel like
Before we move on to that, I have a bit of a debate section.
Nice.
I hinted this to Jasper, but I didn't tell you, Robin.
Mm-hmm.
So, of the 4 games that's releasing within a week in February, Far Cry New Dawn, Crackdown 3, Metro Exodus, and Anthem, which one, just hypothetically, it doesn't have to be your opinion, it doesn't have to be true, which one do you think is the lightest weight? Which one has the lightest weight of the 4?
In what sense? Which is gonna do the least number?
Yeah, do the least numbers.
If I can, if you're still thinking, with sort of the disclaimer that Crackdown 3 is sort of skewed because of Game Pass. It's the offering there is very much catered to the fact that people can actually try it, see whether they like it, and it's much more viable over the long term. I think Metro Exodus is actually going to have the sort of the hardest time, because it's up against 2 at least established franchises and a new franchise that is just obviously having a lot of money thrown at it. Anthem is such a big project, and seems to have such a massive marketing budget that I would say Metro is the most nichest title in here. Yep. And it's gonna have a very dedicated core of players that are specifically waiting for this game, and I very much look forward to playing it, because the Metro series is a really, really interesting take on sort of the FPS. But out of these, it's probably the hardest sell.
So, chat, this is where you come in. This is the debate section.
Is this where Jasper comes in?
This is also where Jasper comes in. But Jasper, can you give me a quick answer?
I think the race to sell least copies is between Crackdown and Metroid. I don't know if Crackdown's, of course, hampered by being Xbox only. I don't know if they'll ever show us download numbers. The numbers are skewed because of Game Pass. On the other hand, Metro is probably the most niche, and also kind of hampered themselves by going Epic exclusive, I believe, on PC at least.
Yes,
that's
they are
interesting.
Epic exclusive, which we'll talk about in a sec. But chat, this is where you come in. Robin and Jasper will flick a coin. If we don't have one, I'll pick one of them.
Okay.
And they're going to debate. Well, each of them will have 1 minute to give a statement, where they have to either defend Metro Exodus sticking with its current release date, or they have to say no, rather push it back by X amount of time. And
that's actually very easy.
Well, if it's very easy, Robin, Jasper, which side would you like to argue?
Um,
That's
Well-
very easy. One very specific way.
I think right now it looks easier to argue that they should move their release date.
So Jasper will argue that they should move their release date, and Robin will argue that they should keep their release date
Yes.
for mid-February. And chat, after you've had both arguments, you vote 1 for Jasper or 2 for Robin.
Or F for everyone loses.
Or F for everyone who loses, or 3 because you're a troll and a memer. But 1 for Jasper and 2 for Robin to see who you agree with more. So who would like to start? Are you ready to start?
I'll take it.
Okay, ready, Robin?
Yes.
Take your time.
Okay, I think Metro should stick with its current release date of February 15th because, logistically, it's a game shipping in retail. That has already been shipped. You're not going to be able to turn that around. And also, moving that away even further just sort of creates a narrative where it's the game that was moved 2 weeks before because it couldn't stand up to competition. I think that game has a lot of things going for it. Visually, it's incredibly impressive. Its narrative, it has a very unique sort of style to it. And I think it's better to get that out of the door because it's bound to be received very, very positively. And then bank on that for a long tail.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That was 54 seconds. That was perfect.
Oh,
And to add to that, actually I'll add to it later. Jasper, you ready?
sure. Yeah.
Okay, ready, set, go.
Well, with Crackdown, Far Cry, and Anthem coming out, it's really hard to see how anybody is going to be talking about Metro Exodus at all. And this being kind of the game that Epic Store is banking on to kind of compete with Steam. I think you needed to touch some limelight, to get a moment to shine in order to do that. And right now, I don't think it will really get that opportunity. So I don't think that the press is going to be talking much about it, and then that will also hurt your long tail because you got one shot to make an impression, and that impression will last. So, and when the impression isn't made, then months later people won't be thinking, "Oh right, I could pick up this game because I heard it's good," because they won't have heard about it.
Right. So
That's exactly a minute.
it's going to be remembered as the game that no one talked about.
So chat, one's in the
it's a-
chat if you think you agree with Jasper, or two's in the chat if you agree with Robin. I was gonna add to what Robin said, and a bit contradictory to what you said actually, Jasper, because at least from my experience on the YouTubes, Far Cry, New Dawn, and Metro Exodus have been the games with most played by most content creators.
Right.
Like free play.
I believe that. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they just get let in, they're let in a room and they can roam around anywhere. I know Anthem just released a beta a few days ago.
Yes.
Also, beta or beta?
You're the native speaker here, Niel.
Okay, I know Anthem released its beta a few
I don't know.
days ago, but it's it's a scripted mission.
Mm-hmm.
But most content creators have been showing off Far Cry and Metro, and I've not seen anyone free play Crackdown.
I don't. Yeah, it's probably embargoed.
Which as an Xbox fanboy is worrying, but yeah.
That's true.
What's chat saying?
Neil wins.
I think in a way, also, was it smart to do the Epic Game Store move to get people talking about the game, or to get the game in the headlights? Or
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a curious move because the point you mentioned is very valid. So in case you didn't hear this, Metro Exodus is shipping on the Epic Game Store and kind of foregoing Steam by the looks of it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting move. it seems like this is pushing the Epic Games Store, and I read very briefly that they said sort of this ensures a lot of the future for the series. It's bound to get a lot more attention there than it might have had on Steam. That's sort of hard to speculate. But there is a huge incentive here for Epic.
Right.
And in that sense, you're very much right that it might be better to sort of move this to a spot where it would also dominate the more general news.
Is any of these games coming out on the Epic Game Store?
Metro Exodus is coming out on the Epic Game Store, and recently, no, the others aren't. But recently, the Ubisoft post-apocalypse shooter sequel, Division 2. Division 2 has also announced that they're going on the Epic.
I mean, so why
Epic
isn't Far
Store.
Cry? Ubisoft and Epic have a good relationship, right? So
Does Ubisoft have their own? No, they don't.
They have
'cause
Uplay.
But do they sell it through Uplay? Or?
They do.
mm-hmm.
So if they have their own
buys
thing.
games through Uplay, but well, I heard that if you already pre-ordered Metro on Steam, you'll still get it through Steam.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you think this was just a marketing stunt? They just want the attention, like no publicity is bad publicity kind of thing.
For Metro.
For Metro, just suddenly doing a 180.
I think it's sort of, well, it's hard to sort of make sense of this without knowing what the agreement was. For all we know, there's a very large sum of money involved. That's purely speculative, but hey,
that seems very likely.
it could happen.
Mm-hmm.
It was at least strong enough. The incentive was apparently strong enough for them to do this, despite what looks like Valve having been very favorable to them in the past.
Yeah.
A Metro is a very high-end shooter. It's a very PC gamer's game.
Yeah.
It has 6 specs. This is
Yeah.
This is about as PC Master Race as it gets.
It is coming out on console, right?
It is coming out on console.
Right.
Yeah, and the others, the preceding installments have as well. But sort of the original Metro was known for having for very much maxing out most PC rigs.
True.
It's curious to me that they'd move away from a platform that seems to have done very well for them without a huge incentive for them doing so.
Well, they probably got a huge incentive.
Yeah.
Speaking of huge incentives,
Stream is restarted? Oh.
Well, no. It's time for raffles.
Oh, new clock is already running.
New clock's already running, but I've got old raffles for round 2.
Right.
Which is Ravishing Railing, right?
Which is Ravishing Railing. So the winners for this round are RP Varela,
Congrats.
75201, who I believe has won 3 weeks in a row now.
Dang.
What are the chances? Nikki
epic rigging.
9, P Christini, and Epic Gizmo 519.
Oh.
And the lucky winners
Related
for Robo Scoop and Swords and Soldiers Armageddon are Epic Gizmo and P Christini.
Congratulations to all of you.
Yeah.
So,
Congrats.
back to...
One more raffle for Bulgarian Deadlift, right?
for which one?
Bulbarian.
Bulbarian, yes, for Bulbarian.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually wanted to ask about whether if you think, because we hear a lot about AAA is going from other platforms to Epic Game Store, but these are all games which already have a lot of exposure, and would it be correct to say that at this moment in time, if you're an indie, publishing on Steam would probably get you more exposure than if you published on Epic? Would you agree with that?
in a way,
Not necessarily. But
It's
yeah.
not my opinion. It's a statement.
there's two parts to that actually. One is that you actually cannot ship on the Epic Games Store right now if you want it. They have a lot of people want to ship their games on the Epic Games Store, and there's a queue. As if you want to sign up for the Epic Games Store, the site for that says that they're not releasing games basically as they come. They sort of pick and choose.
Right.
So that sort of suggests if you have the traction, it's easier to get on there now than on Steam.
Yeah.
And it's very much the way Steam was for the last couple of years until Greenlight and Steam Direct came around.
Yeah.
And people didn't like that. And it's gonna be a while before just a regular indie can say, hey, I can ship on either of these two. Which one do I pick? But for a more established studio, because the Epic Games Store is more curated right now, there is at least more opportunity to get that exposure, even if it might not have the same amount of eyeballs. So I think there's more sort of winners on the Epic Games Store right now, but it also has to do with the fact that it's curated.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I don't know. So the best example I could think of right now is Hades, right?
Mm-hmm.
That launched on the Epic Game Store, and it's in Epic's own best interest right now, especially when you're talking about exclusives, to shout it, to shout about it as much as you can. So in that sense, you'll get, as an indie, you'll get a lot of free exposure from Epic when you get picked, kind of. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure that a team like them would have gotten plenty of exposure due to their name already, and I wonder, like the Bastion and Transistor guys, if they needed Epic for this. I don't really know all that Epic did to try and do this, but they are a headliner, and I think in general as a gamer it's also really exciting to see a store again that is curated, because while an uncurated giant store has its own appeal, because finding games becomes more of a treasure hunt almost than actually playing the games sometimes. Browsing the Steam store can be fun because there's a lot of weird stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
See, this was something else I wanted to touch on, but this is a whole new podcast in itself, was censorship on Steam, which has been, let's say, a controversial topic in the recent weeks and months.
Yeah,
but sorry to interrupt.
There's a lot of that on Steam as well that you won't find on the Epic Store. So I think both forms can exist. Of course, as an indie, the other thing that is tricky for us, for Ronimo in particular, is that we focus heavily on online and services and stuff, and as an indie to do that, we pretty much need backends like those of Steam that Steam provides, or because PlayStation provides it and Xbox provides it for us. Building that on our own is really crazy, and a lot of the competing stores don't have similar stores or feature sets that allow us to tie in and to do stuff like friend invites, friend lists pretty much automatically, which is handled through Steam. I think Discord can do it, even if you're not on their store. I think you can do Discord friends lists and invites that could technically work across stores. So maybe something like that could be the future, where the social component is separate from the store. But right now, for us,
that's just totally out of scope.
Yeah, the Epic Store is pretty much. But I think they announced that they'll be releasing like a lot of the Fortnite social features for devs to tie their games into.
Yeah.
somewhere in the future, and that is to
That's
an indie
exciting
like us
tech.
is very exciting.
Well,
It's-
speaking of Fortnite,
Mm-hmm.
the absolute phenomenon for the past year and a half,
Yeah.
Mhm.
just as
I
a
don't know where
Hail
it-
Mary from Save the World,
Yeah.
came Fortnite Battle Royale, which has really taken the internet, the gaming industry, and also
I've heard it's quite popular.
and also meme culture really by storm.
Right.
And yeah, and Robin, you mentioned earlier about Epic Games having lots of eyeballs
Mhm.
on the Epic Store, but lots of these eyeballs come from Fortnite players, which of course is a free to play game,
Yeah.
which is a it's not even it's rated for all. Right?
Yeah.
It's rated for and it's free to play.
Right.
Mhm.
Sure, the Epic Games Store does have a lot of traffic going through it, but a lot of this traffic is very focused on
Yeah.
Fortnite.
That's
That's
true.
an
Is
interesting
this how does this tie into having games on the Fortnite on the Epic Games Store?
I think it's actually it's actually the thing that makes the Epic Store viable, because at the end of the day, people want to play games, and it only matters to a certain extent where they do it. And
Yep.
obviously, Fortnite has had enough pool for gamers to download the Epic client, to install Fortnite separately from Steam, to play that, to start building their own friends list there, and they already have that because they want to play Fortnite. Now, if you're already a gamer and you already had Steam and you had the incentive to install the Epic Store, then what's the problem with buying a game from that store if it has an exclusive or if it has a better deal? And I think one of the things that sort of ties into the tech thing you mentioned, the Epic Store isn't just viable because of Fortnite. The Epic Store is in a large part viable because Epic also owns the Unreal Engine. The Unreal Engine provides a lot of the backend for these systems. Like, it's not too much of a leap for Epic to go from just being a middleware provider to saying like, hey, we're already providing matchmaking services, we're already providing multiplayer tech. If we expand this with a friends list and a system where you can browse the store, basically, it's a store.
Yep.
And it just fits perfectly on top of the tech they're already providing.
I'm really surprised they didn't leverage Fortnite more in promoting this store. Like, why would they spend probably millions, if not more, on Metro Exodus if they could just... Okay, every time you buy something on the Epic Store, you get Battle Pass, or for
People
for
would
a
do
couple
it.
of days, or something like that. You know, why not tie the Fortnite rewards into, or make a meta currency that is Epic Store exclusive that incentivizes people to buy stuff on the Epic Store when they are into the ecosystem. of
That
it.
might be
maybe
an
they
antitrust thing, but
Maybe it will be a thing where, you know, if you buy Metro Exodus, you get the Wasteland skin in
Yeah.
Fortnite.
that would actually be awesome.
In Astronaut's launch days, Steam did a similar thing for Team Fortress. It's kind of a no-brainer. We had a Yuri backpack, I believe, and
Yeah.
let developers model some stuff that people can exclusively get in Fortnite. That's a huge incentive, and really easy to do. I think that is a really low-hanging fruit for Epic, so I think it's very likely to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, I think a legendary skin in Fortnite costs $20 as it is. Oh, it might be
Sure.
20 AUD
Dang.
Sure.
and not USD. But still, you know, that's probably $10-15 as it is. And, you know, if you get a free epic or legendary skin with a $50 game,
Yeah.
you know, you're spending, you know, you get it's decent value.
Yeah.
All things considered. And also with Metro Exodus, the interesting thing is that it's going to be $50 in US.
Oh yeah,
But still €60 in EU.
they've lowered the price due to the developer and
That's
publisher cut. I
Interesting.
believe the store.
That
cut?
might again be EU laws,
Oh,
where you wouldn't be able to price differently between parties.
Hmm.
I'm not sure actually, but it's this is actually there is sort of personally, and it ties into one of the other things you put in the script.
Mm-hmm.
There's currently two concerns I actually have with the Epic Store. The first is sort of it's a pretty straightforward, but one of I've not read too much into this, but from what I remember from their initial announcement is that they were sort of touting a system that people have been asking Valve for a long time, where if people buy our game, there's no real way for us as a developer to stay in touch with them. And one of the things they touted was, hey, if someone buys your game, you'll be able to reach out to these players by email. Now, if you go into the Epic Store and you buy a game, it basically has by default that feature enabled, where the developer, they don't receive your personal information, but they get access to being able to contact you. And in my understanding, that's just not how GDPR works. It's the European privacy law. If you're buying a game, or if you're getting any service, they actually changed it.
They changed it into an opt-in, but yes,
cool.
that was very developer friendly.
Yeah, that's an amazing feature,
Mhm.
and that's exciting. But if it's not allowed, then it's not that big of a feature.
Yeah, they're a little fast and loose here and there. It seems.
Yeah, and which is cool because they're obviously trying to address these concerns, but it's still murky. The other thing that I might also remember wrong is that they actually said, like, hey, we have this 88-12 split, which is basically more developer friendly than the industry standard.
And the industry standard has been 70-30 for a very long time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep.
Just for context.
Yes. So that effectively means you get about 25% more revenue. For every game you sell on the Epic Store compared to another game, the developer makes about 25% more.
Yeah.
However, I think they mentioned that because developers who use the Unreal Engine as middleware, they're usually supposed to provide a certain percentage of their revenue above a certain threshold to Epic. If you're from sales made on the Epic Store, they'll waive it or it'll be a lower percentage. To me, that seems like an antitrust thing because these are two separate industries. You have a store on one end, you have middleware on the other end. There is no combining these two is in a way bad for competition because a developer who makes a sale on Steam would be paying a bigger cut to that party and also pay money to Epic, thereby giving them even less incentive to go to the store competitors, even though it's not competing on the engine tech.
So you mean the leveraging of the game engine and the store to help each other is kind of a violation of that?
Yeah, to me, those seem like almost like two separate sort of business propositions.
You mean like the way Microsoft used Windows to get everybody on Internet Explorer back in the day? Yeah, it's I see that, but I think it might be a problem when Epic Game Store becomes significant size. Right now, I don't think anybody said anything about it.
No, probably not. But I think it's an sort of interesting take on their part for doing this. Like the incentive is there, and it's really good for developers.
Yep.
I mean, yes, making more money. It's hard enough to get a sale nowadays to begin with. Making 25% more on that could be the life and death for a lot of developers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Speaking of life and death, it would be the death of us if we don't do raffles.
Ooh.
It would.
But before we do raffles, let me check. It's debate time. So the debate here, and same joke, guys. One's in the chat for Jasper and two's in the chat for Robin.
Mm-hmm.
And Robin, you get to pick which side you'd like to argue first.
Sure.
The question is, does the success of the Epic Game Store depend on Fortnite? That is, which would you like to argue it does depend on Fortnite or it doesn't depend on Fortnite?
I'd say it does.
He already
Okay,
argued that
yeah.
Robin earlier in this. All right.
And you agreed to it, so.
And Jasper has to argue. That's the rules of the game. That's how Mafia works. I'm so sorry, chat. So Jasper has to argue that the success of the Epic Game Store does not depend on Fortnite, and Robin has to argue that.
That's pretty ridiculous. Okay.
I think you have some pretty good arguments, Jasper.
Mm.
I'm not gonna say mine just yet.
I gave you a ton of ideas how to leverage Fortnite more to improve.
But while
The
you
store
guys
success.
think of a few of your arguments,
Right.
I'm going to announce the winners for the last raffle sesh, which was for Barbarian Deadlift.
Sure.
And the winners are Tolki, more or less
Congratulations.
_stranger, Lone Star 00, Lunch Pod, and Solcia Path
Solcia.
with a Z.
With the Z?
With a Z.
Nice.
For you non-British English speakers. And the lucky winner for RoboScoop was Tolki, and the lucky winner for Swords and Sausage 2, Shromageddon, is more or less _stranger.
More or
Congrats.
less?
Congrats.
More or less?
A winner.
More or less a winner. It sounds like more of a
Well,
winner.
More than
Nice.
less. So,
Weird.
let me just get... Who started last time? Jasper
I did, I think.
Wait.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to
Robin.
start again.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll take it.
Robin, go ahead when you're ready, which is now.
Sure, okay. I'm the success of the continued success of the Epic Games Store depends on Fortnite, because the way I see it, a lot of the services they're providing that is different from their main competitor Steam is just on numbers. If they grow really, really big as a store, just very straight up, Valve could basically nuke them out of existence by matching every single term they offer. They're basically pushing by undercutting Valve, and if push comes to shove, Valve could follow up. At that point, the major differentiating power is that they have Fortnite, a game that has just proven ecosystems can survive outside of Steam. And the power of Fortnite in itself, as it continues, will always be a reason for people to install the Epic client, which just happens to include the Epic Store.
That's a minute. Jasper,
Pow.
when you're ready, bring it.
Well, if we don't count, I mean, of course, the Epic Game Store wouldn't exist without Fortnite, and Epic is gonna need the Fortnite dollars to make it successful. But I think its continued success is really hard to argue that it's fully dependent on Fortnite, because, well, I mean, games come and go, and just like the way Fortnite destroyed PUBG, you shouldn't hinge all your bets on a single game like that. And I think if you want continued success of a store, you will need like a diverse library of exclusive stuff in order to have because I mean the Fortnite audience is huge, but it's kind of a singular audience, and they still haven't really proven that they can sell stuff to the Fortnite audience, or sell games to the Fortnite audience, because despite the huge audience that is the Fortnite player base, the Epic Store is still incredibly marginal compared to Steam.
Well, I gave you a bit more than a minute there, but
That's actually a very good point, though.
But I also, adding to Jasper's points, I also think Epic can really create its own we've been using this word quite a bit, but it's on ecosystem,
Yeah.
especially with smaller developers, because you have a small developer who uses the Unity engine, right, which is Fortnite, and then
No, Unreal.
the Unreal. My brain's fuzzy. We have a smaller developer who Epic lets use the Unreal Engine and then make a game with that and put it onto the Epic Game Store. It's really its own. It becomes its own ecosystem, and it's a closed loop.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
build
that
their own
I think,
exclusives.
yeah, exactly. They build their own exclusives, and it really becomes. It's no longer third party like other platforms are.
Yep.
And it really becomes first party games
Yeah.
that Epic has made within its own ecosystem.
Yeah, they're in a sort of unique position where they can almost be like Netflix, where they start out sort of as a platform for other content, and then start sort of curating their own exclusives, which in this case would be, for example, funding or supporting Unreal Engine developers.
Yeah,
That would be a really interesting take, and it's in a way they'd be competing with Valve and Steam on a sort of an entirely different game, or on a different level, where it's a more curated store. That's something a lot of people want actually from the Valve from Steam.
Yeah,
and that is the main thing you see Steam struggling with.
it's really interesting how many parallels there are. Like Epic is a game developer themselves. They have an engine that is publicly available, and they're frustrated with the status quo, which is very similar to Valve when they started Steam, and they also opened up their source engine. And they didn't really commercially license it in a big way that Epic is doing, of course. So in a sense, I think that's also one of the Epic or advantages that Epic has. I think in the end, the best game stores we have right now come from companies that are both developers and have after Steam, the second biggest game store is probably GOG or
Or
Origin.
Wii game.
Yeah, but we don't know too much about
That's
that.
true.
But it's also, yeah, I think Humble and GOG are both very, very different, but they built their own platforms and sort of a unique thing they were doing.
Yeah, but even Humble, I mean, they're not a game developer, so.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And it turns out, and there's Humble is kind of cheating because they're selling Steam keys.
Yeah.
So they don't have a lot of the burden of having to manage the back end and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it feels like all these different platforms all have their own niche.
Yeah.
And like also like going back to the Epic Games store, like Robin said, this wouldn't be possible at all if it wasn't for the big bucks Fortnite's brought in.
Or the Unreal Engine.
Or the Unreal Engine, exactly.
Personally, I wouldn't be surprised if the Unreal Engine provides an income that is a very substantial part of the Fortnite revenue, for example, because it's powering so many games, and it's
crazy.
taking a slice of the pie of so many huge games that it's.
I saw that the new Yoshi game that Nintendo is making is actually also Unreal. Yeah.
Wow, that's it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And I will say this about the Epic Games Store. It's like a lot of the discussion is around how it sort of differentiates itself from Steam. But we're now in a position where the very first actual contender is showing up to take the fight to Valve for Steam, and you've already seen some changes to the way Valve is doing business. And I'm not going to say that it's because of Epic, but we've seen more and more publishers, AAA publishers, move away from Valve over the years. And last year, there was a news story where apparently Valve was offering reduced service fees, basically, to
In
parties
response of, yeah.
that were exceeding very significant revenue goals every year. And that's a move. That's obviously a move to keep sort of big parties interested in being on their store, and it's having this competition and having these big publishers sort of try to carve out their own spot in the market. For example, Activision didn't ship Destiny 2 on Steam; they went to Battle.net, which again already had a very, very big install base.
Yep.
And it's forcing Valve to change. And just because Epic is sort of building a thing from the ground up and being very responsive to what people need, as it grows, it's going to run into a lot of the same problems that Steam has. How do you deal with discovery if it's no longer one curated game shipping every couple of days? How do you deal with that if there is actually 30 developers who want to ship with a game on your store every day? How are you at that point still going to be sort of a better offering than what Valve is doing?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a one-way street, right? Valve can't go back.
Yeah.
So in the more open Epic becomes, they can't go back. So it's there's going to be this watershed moment where they have to decide. But I think Epic in general has the reason Epic is very exciting to the game industry is that they're in a very unique position compared to stuff like Origin or Uplay, where there have been non-EA games available on Origin, but they
Ubisoft games specifically.
Yeah, but they do in general they do very little to court people outside of their own stuff. You know, but Origin is mostly a platform to sell EA stuff, and it's very in your face about their subscription, and they tie you into this EA ecosystem. And the Uplay is the same thing. There's very little, if anything, outside of the Ubisoft catalog that you can get on Uplay. I'm sure there are some games, but they are not like Steam, where they're trying to do stuff like Epic is doing to get people into the Uplay ecosystem, and they really rely on their own library and their own systems to push Uplay. And Epic is really opening it up, and that is a very different approach, and that is, I think, is what makes this store so exciting, and also like a viable alternative. And I think in general people complain about the lack of reviews or forums or feature set that Epic doesn't have. I think that could be part of the charm. I mean, a really simple story that's quick and easy to navigate. Of course, they have some work cut out for them, but that is all curated games that have a good name.
Mm-hmm.
Then you don't really need reviews, and then there's plenty of community opportunities everywhere on the internet. You don't need it.
Yeah.
In the store itself. I mean, I'm not gonna go into a store to buy jeans to talk about a bunch of other people about jeans or anything. It doesn't, not for every game experience necessarily you need to see everybody talking about it. Or
a lot of people are going to come into the Epic Store knowing the game they want to buy because they saw it somewhere else, not the other way around. And it's, I think it's also, let's not forget that the Steam Store is evolving, and just having more pressure added to it and seeing what their competitors are doing that people like, in a way, just makes it clearer to them what to do. Without any competition, Valve has been trying to solve a lot of problems on their own. And they've been solving problems at the same time that their store has been evolving.
True. And monopolies don't necessarily Valve shows that even if you're in a monopoly position, you don't necessarily have to rest on your laurels all the time. They did lots of stuff.
Yeah, they went from as I said, they went from a platform in 2012 where people like us were sort of we shipped our game on a day that another game was also shipping. Was that a good idea? To now there's 30 games a day. Let's figure out who's gonna ever see it. they've been trying to address this at the same time as this has been evolving. And the main thing the Steam store has proven now is that there's a lot of different games that have a lot of different audiences. How do you separate all of them?
Yeah.
In a way that doesn't limit player discoverability? Players might find something they like that they haven't liked before. And at the same time, not just constantly push things in their face that they don't like.
Yeah, because you don't want to push them away from your store.
Yeah.
It's a really difficult problem.
Yeah, and I think on that conundrum, we've already run quite a bit over time.
Oh, excellent.
And it's been incredibly interesting, not just for me, I'm pretty sure for chat as well. And
in general, the point in chat, how do you feel about that? I think the clients problem, the infinite clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gamers have proven by now that if the game is good enough, they're willing to install like a Riot League of Legends launcher or an Origin or a Uplay, or sometimes like Ubisoft sneaks in their Uplay regardless of what you do.
Damn it, Ubisoft, you did it again.
If you buy something through Steam.
Ubisoft has the courtesy to not launch Uplay until I launch a Ubisoft game.
True. That's a good point. Yeah.
More things should do this. I can find the one client I want to launch from which I'm happy to launch my other clients. But I'm currently at a point where if I launch my computer, I have to turn off something in Razer because it'll crash one very specific game. And it's super annoying. If I'm not going to play that game, I don't have to turn off the Razer thing because the Razer thing is fine to have running most of the other time. But these are just not compatible. For a while, running Discord overlay in-game would crash my Rainbow Six. And that's just really confusing because all of them want to butt into the game I'm playing.
Yeah.
Could you please not do that? I mean, I don't mind installing these apps, but if you get in my way, I'm going to have some serious emotions about this. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I agree. All the overlays and stuff. That therefore, as a gamer, having all these clients obviously sucks in many ways. I mean, it's good that people are fighting. It's good that this competition, for instance, is used to fund stuff like Metro Exodus team, the dev team, and makes the game available cheaper for users, and it's going to mean probably higher percentages for devs, more sales to core users, and all that kind of good stuff. But in the end, do you want really? It's gonna come at a cost to the user as well, and that is.
Yeah.
A launcher for launchers, yeah, or like a
launcher for launchers.
A meta. Well, Steam can launch, but can launch non-Steam games, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe other clients have that option as well.
I know Discord allows you to import or link to games in other clients. I'm pretty sure, but it's also just if I want to switch from if I'm playing a Steam game and I want to play World of Warcraft or whatever. And then I stop playing World of Warcraft, the Battle.net client doesn't go away. So there is sort of a passive... The longer my computer is on, the more launchers I'll have used.
Yep.
That are just slowing me down. And that's really annoying.
I think what we can take from this is...
Another 5 minutes of talk.
That and Ronnie Launcher coming 2020.
That's brilliant, yeah.
But I think we have to skip our third topic for today.
One day there will be enough tricky launchers that people are willing to pay good money for software that manages.
Or there will be enough time for us to cover 3 topics per podcast instead of 2.
What's going to happen to this podcast, Neil?
Well, it's going to be up. The full VOD will be up tomorrow, and then highlights of it will be up on our YouTube channel
Were there any highlights?
The weekend. Well,
a really short video.
You know how I can scrape content from no content.
Yes.
So that's
you,
me. Chat. I know we all have, but it's my job to not neglect you, and I've neglected you.
Sorry.
This podcast because it's our pilot, and other excuses, and it's I can't multitask too well. It's being hectic. But let me know in the Discord, in the Ronimo Discord, which you can join by clicking the button below. Let us know how you enjoyed it. Let us know what topic you want to talk about. The podcast won't become a weekly thing.
Nope.
We'll see.
There's no set schedule
Yet.
for the podcast. If there's some amazing urgent news that springs up and we think we can offer an insight other podcasters might not be able to, then we'll set it up on a Wednesday. You might even see a desk next week.
What?
Not next week, next podcast.
Right.
And you might even see some different overlays and
Whoa!
some art
Wow.
and a different background, and maybe something that says game development podcast.
Are you gonna
Excellent.
art, Neil?
Nope.
Remember that one time where I went, "What are you doing, Neil?" and you closed your screen because
On that bombshell, that's the end of the stream. Thanks so much for listening. I will be sending out
It was very fun,
raffle
Neil.
winners.
thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
No problem.
funny.
I had a lot of fun. I learned a lot. I hope chat also had a lot of fun.
I got to rant, which is always good. Sorry for
Excellent.
ranting. It's cool. Thanks.
Sorry for ranting. It's cool that I ranted. That's that. Let us know what you thought of the podcast. Tweet us, Facebook us, Discord us,
Us.
text us if you have our
Us,
phone
us?
numbers. No, don't do the last one.
Harass
Uh,
us.
But yeah,
Oh, wait.
let us know what you thought. Let us
Leave
know
launch.
if you want to see something like this
Launch
again.
Neil. Nice.
Launch Neil so you can fire him.
What?
It's like firing
You're
and
so funny,
launching. Get it?
Yeah.
Like firing cannon, launching. Anyway,
Let's go.
that's the end.
Mm.
Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you this time next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everyone.